Give me a second.
Okay, meeting's recording. All right, let's kick this in gear. So where's the, here it is. Huh?
Pledge.
Well, yeah, I gotta do that first. Let's call the meeting to order at 6:02 PM and please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, everybody's had a chance to look at the previous meeting's minutes on March 25th, I presume.
Yep.
John Sandak, I know that Rick and I had reviewed them and we have no corrections, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the March 25th, 2024 Tuxedo Farms Local Development Corporation minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, new business, review and adoption of preliminary annual assessment report. So we have that in front of us. So let me just make a motion to get it onto the discussion. I'd like to make a motion to review and subsequently adopt the preliminary annual assessment report. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. So who wants to take it away from your side over there?
Yeah, I'll be happy to present it. I don't know if I have the option to share the screen. I could walk through the shortened form that was sent over, or the long form. I don't know if anyone's actually had a chance to read through it page by page, but we did provide a kind of a slide deck that shortens that down to about 12 pages. Let me see if I can share my screen. There we are. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that has the visuals. And
Hold on one second. We
I
gotta
gotta
give you
get to
permission.
share on here.
Yeah, we just gotta give you permission here. Hold on one second.
Something's happening.
Okay, there you go. Go ahead, Eric.
all right, let's try that again. Sharing screen. Are we seeing the presentation or did I?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, very good. So at any point in time, though, feel free to stop me if you've got a question as I'm going through the shortened form, which presents some of the tables from the special assessment report that was submitted, and we can drill into the numbers and details as you all see fit. But so we're presenting the report for assessment for calendar year 2025. Obviously being presented in 2024, but assessment collections ensuing in the year 2025. So the bonds, for those that may be new to the board, they were issued in 2015 on June 1st. The aggregate amount of $30 million. As of the date of this report, prior to the November 1st debt service payment, the 2015 bonds are outstanding in the amount of $29,860,000. They're earning a fixed rate of 6.55%. They were issued to finance the sewage facilities, fund capitalized interest on the bonds, a debt service reserve fund as well as pay cost of issuance. And the bonds themselves are payable solely from secured pledge on the service fees, which would be the assessments that are levied on the parcels within the district. As noted, there's a payment due on November 1st. The interest is paid semi-annually, May 1st and November 1st, principal in November. And the final maturity of the bonds is slated for November 1st, 2047. Any questions there to date or the moment?
Yeah, I think first thing that stands out to me is we got a $30 million issue. And 9 years in, we're at 860. So that's the principal that's left. The interest is up front.
Yeah, that's right. So the sinking fund redemptions just started to occur. Let's see, when was
So
that?
this is amortization here we're talking about, right? So
Effectively, yeah, principal did not begin reduction until 2021, and it's
okay,
tapered.
thank you.
Yep. It's a good question. So next slide. So this table provides a summary of the accounts held with the trustee, which run just the period of the fiscal year. The assessment report itself, July 31st through July 31st, really. It's a year's worth of activity. As you can see here, we do have investment income generating to about 155,000 per year. That will likely fall off a little bit as interest rates are cut, and the money market return is probably going to be less in the year 2025 than it was in 2024, but should still earn some interest. There is, the reserve fund that's funded fully to its capacity, so any excess earnings in the reserve fund are applied to reduce debt service and assessments. I don't know if there's any questions specifically on the accounts, but I'll leave this table here for a moment. Okay, hearing none.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, yeah, so then moving into the actual special assessment requirement for the calendar year 2025, it's equal to $2,600,757, rounded, of course. And how is that broken down? So you've got the bond service fee of $2,041, which is the principal interest due on the debt service of the bonds. As mentioned, the reserve fund is fully funded, so we have nothing that needs to be contributed to the reserve fund. No additional indebtedness service fee. There have been no other bonds or loans that need repaid. And so then we have the debt service component of the sewer administrative expense fee. There'll be another table that explains this a bit further, but effectively that's the fees for other costs that are not the O&M. So that's the top line is the debt service component, administrative fees of the district, and bond service fees. Then we get into the operation and maintenance component. The O&M service fee is $448,300. That's coming specifically from the wastewater treatment plant operator who submitted the budget for this year at that amount. Then we have sorry, I lost my mouse. A small amount of $2,800 to bring the reserve O&M account up to the minimum requirement of $200,000. So just a small amount to refill what was spent in the prior fiscal year. So when we add that all together, you've got your debt service costs at the top line of 2.1 million, and then your O&M components here at the bottom line at 450,000, and that gets us 2,600,757 for the calendar year. Any questions on those numbers?
I'm good. Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay,
Okay.
proceed, please.
Thank you. So this is just a bit of a further breakdown of the bond service fees. As noted, the interest is paid semi-annually, May and November. So we got 973,000 due on each one of those interest payments, and then a principal payment of 190,000 due in November of 2025. As noted, some earnings are offsetting the amount of the debt service requirement. The reserve fund is currently at about $1.5 million. It's earning about 5% interest. We've taken a very conservative estimate and assuming that it's going to earn a small amount of interest. We know it will earn interest, so we've just listed that at about 12,000, which is equivalent of 1 month's worth of interest at the current rate. Certainly there'll be additional months of interest earned, so that's a conservative estimate. The surplus from the prior year will be shown in the following table, but effectively that's an accumulation of earnings from other accounts within the trust estate. So when we apply that excess or surplus, that gets us a net bond service fee for calendar year of $2,041,652.
Okay.
So here is the slide that kind of gives you a bit more of a breakdown on how the surplus was determined. So we have the interest and principal payment on the bonds that's going to be due November 1st, about 15 days from now, totaling $1,112,000. The available balance in the interest account as of July, which again, there'll be some additional earnings that have accumulated in that account since July, of course, but it was $93. The principal account held about $138. The balance of the revenue fund was $1,131,000. The balance in the debt service reserve fund that will be transferred by the trustee and applied towards interest, which is essentially the 6 months worth of interest that's accumulated since the last bond interest payment, is about $57,000. And then some additional interest that may generate for the month of October. This was as of July, so some additional months worth of interest that will likely accumulate, which gets us to the amount of surplus or available funds to offset that debt service of $1,195,000, and the sum of that is $82,000. We reported as a negative number as it's a credit on the prior table. So that's how we get the surplus. Any questions there?
I'm good.
Nope.
Thank you.
Continue.
So a little bit more on the breakdown of the debt service component of the sewer administrative expenses. As noted, these are not the plant operation and maintenance expenses. These are the other expenses of the district, and these are estimates based on the prior year's totals. So council expenses at $35,000, town council expenses at $12,000, trustee fees at $2.5 Administrator fees, that's muni cap 62, audit fees at 5, board member expenses 6,000, board insurance at about 13,000. And then a small, well, not small, but about a 2% contingency for the expenses for the year. Then when we talk about this credit here at 46,000, that's what still remains in the admin expense account held under the trust, which will be applied towards invoices that trickle in through the rest of this year and of next year. So that effectively offsets some of the budget of 62 that was up there, which gets us to the net amount of $108,002.
Okay, any questions?
Nope.
Proceed.
All right. This may be hard to see. This is just inserted to provide a little bit more commentary or color to the O&M budget, which was submitted by the folks at Related, the plan operator, $448,300. Of note here is that costs have increased over the prior year, but the contingency has been lowered and the town overflow cost has reduced from 120 to 86,000. So we're up, about a net 13,000 from the prior year in total O&M that was projected to be needed from the plan operator.
Okay, we're good.
So when calculating that operation and maintenance service fee, this is a little bit more to detail what was provided by the SW Corp or the plan operator. But effectively, this is just repeating their table, just kind of summarizing it. You've got general maintenance expenses of 321,000, their contingency, which was about 32,000, which gets you the operating costs of 361,000, and then the flow operation amount that they projected about 86,500. So when broken down into the report, this is how we come out with that same service fee of 448,000. So we're just tying out to their numbers.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Then next, so going back to that small amount of reserve for the O&M account or the sewer operations account that needs to be funded with assessments, it's about $2,800. That requirement for that account within the trust is 200,000. The available balance of that for the year is about 197,000. Right now, the amount is actually less than that if you look at the account balances back on I think it was slide 3. But as noted here, the trustee has not yet transferred. We've asked them to make the transfer, but of the revenue collections that occurred from calendar year 2024 assessments, there's 133,000 that was designated to go to the contingency sewer operations account. It has not been transferred. So we've itemized that here. It will be transferred. Effectively, those monies are on hand. They're just not in the proper account. But the net effect is that there's about a $2,000 shortage, or about a $3,000 shortage for the next year.
Eric,
So that
Eric?
shortage is based on the service fee, correct?
Part of the service fee, yeah. So within the indenture, this contingency of $200,000 is there, I think, until the point when the farms district is built out and all of the project monies are spent down. Then the sewer operations contingency may change. But for now, we're billing for the O&M, which is a separate component, about that 448,000, and then the amount to fund this reserve, which was only mildly depleted in the prior year. So I don't think that now that we've got a better handle on the budget and the plant's been operational, I don't foresee that the contingency account will be depleted too much. I mean, when we reach out to the wastewater treatment plant operator and ask them for their budget, we've got some flow data now that's coming in. So my message there is that we're getting more accurate information, and I doubt that we'd actually tap into this contingency in future years. But if there's some unforeseen issue that arises, that's why this account exists.
Eric,
Understood.
I have a question. If we could go back to slide 7.
Sure.
This is the budget. Yeah, right there.
Yep.
There's a couple numbers here that don't make sense to me. And these are questions I think for the operator, but it shows that the town towards the bottom, the town's expected overage costs are substantially less than the first year.
Mhm.
Reduced from 120 to 86.5. Yet sludge hauling is more than double for the 2025. And the startup flow expenses are also substantially higher. They're up from 45 to 56,000. So I'm not sure how these numbers make sense. Um, Fuel oil expenses is up by 3,000, but this is showing that the flow is going to be less. So why are these expenses so much higher?
Yeah, I mean, that is a good question. We can take that back to the operator. I don't know if some of the lower costs in terms of the flow overage had anything to do with the INR from the prior year. I don't know. I think they said that some of that was handled. If that somehow impacts that, but in terms of other changes, I'm not I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it's a good question. We can go back to the operator on this flow
Okay.
startup.
Yeah, Howard,
areas.
we noticed that, Rick and I noticed that this afternoon. We contacted the operator. We have a meeting with him on Wednesday. If you'd like to attend, I can set that up for you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Howard, what we're thinking is the I&I is down, which is reducing the amount of flow.
Yeah.
And the concentration of what's coming in is going to be the increase of the sludge. But we're going to get better
Yeah,
information on that when we meet with the operator next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're through the phase one I&I repair, so we should see a significant reduction in I&I. So this
Yep.
may make sense, but we want to make sure, since this is the first time we're ever meeting with them. So it'd be an eye-opening experience.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you. Proceed, Eric.
Sure. So yeah, that was the components of the fee. So this is a summary of the assessment, which we stated at the top of the presentation. Total would be 2,600,757. That's bond expenses, district administrative expenses, O&M, funding, and then the small contingency amount to bring the sewer operating contingency account back to its required balance. So of that 2.6 million, 2,149,000 is the debt service component, as mentioned. 2,041,000 effectively is the bond expense, principal and interest on the bonds. 108,000 is the admin expense budget, and then the 451,000 is the O&M component of the service fee. I think, as we may know, but to highlight that the Farms District, which is the parcels covering the debt service component, so they're going to be, levied the 2,149,000, and then the Hamlet District, as the only operable user of some of the flow out of the plant, is assessed all of the O&M components. So those parcels will be levied the 451,000, which gets us that special assessment requirement for the year ahead of 2.6 million.
Okay, so yeah, and so we're in our budget right now, right? So that's important information. I mean, I feel we got to have some subsequent conversations about this. But for all intents and purposes of your presentation, please continue.
Sure. So this is a summary of how the allocation of the assessments is governed in accordance with the rate and method of apportionment. So we have to identify the debt service components, as we've just done, and the O&M and service fee requirements as we've done. In the sewer service letter dated October 26, 2022, that's what changed a bit of the prior methodology in terms of how the O&M costs would be levied to the Hamlets District, while the Farms District remains undeveloped. So this is just a slide to kind of reiterate that point.
Okay.
And this is, again, just giving a bit more detail in terms of how the land use class and equivalent units factors into the actual levy. So, depending on the type of property that is scored an equivalent unit. So, single family detached weighs a little heavier than single family attached. Multifamily, generally the parcel count is, the acreage and parcel count is higher, so that scores a little less. Commercial, a bit higher. recreational facility, which I don't think we have any land use class 5, but this effectively, guys, just showing how the assessment to be levied per parcel is based on kind of a weighted score.
And just, Eric, just maybe I can just make sure we all understand. So on the bigger report, this is the slides. On the larger report, each parcel is identified. I think the property owners have to be updated, but each parcel is identified by its tax map ID, and that's what the town has to adopt in its levy. This is not automatic.
Correct. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, any questions on that, you guys? I know we're talking about levies here.
Yeah, so let's see if I can slide this up there.
Well, I guess since none of us here were here prior, I mean, I was, but I wasn't on the sewer LDC. Who sets the levy rate?
Well, under New York law, the town does, and Eric's sharing it with you now.
Mhm.
But under the way these deals work, these structures work across the country, is this rate and method that Eric is going over is the Bible, and that's how the property tax assessments are governed for 25 years. But in New York, we like to make things difficult and complicated. So the town is the final say, has the final say on the levy. So all you have to do is, when you adopt your levy, include these parcels and the levied amount.
Okay, so that's something that
Yeah, these are
well, it has to be
included.
done, the
Oh,
levy
sorry.
has to be in by, well, by March 1st.
For these new properties.
But you adopt
Well,
it.
no,
don't
these
you-
are, hold on, these are Tuxedo Reserve.
Yeah, that should be
properties.
the
I
new
thought we
owner.
were talking about the Hamlets district, sorry.
Yeah, Hamlet is.
This is gonna assess you, it's gonna assess everybody on.
So
Circle
Oh, I
Drive.
see, Tuxedo Club is on there, Village, I
This is
got
gonna
it,
cost
okay.
people on Circle Drive $1,000.
Yeah. So this is the Hamlet district role. So
Yes,
it's
this
two
is a
parts.
Special
Mhm.
assessment, it's gonna hit everybody on Circle Drive $1,000. So I do have a couple questions.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm looking on the memo you guys sent. It says the Farms District the allocation percentage is 53.61 and the Hamlet District is 46.39. How is that determined? Just
Yeah, it's a good
background on
question.
that.
We have this chart here and this breakdown as a point of reference. It's somewhat a meaningless stat as we're aware the Farms District is not developed, so there's no actual flow usage. But based under the memorandum of understanding and the rate and method of apportionment is that the allocation of the O&M components would be on a prorated distribution based on usage in gallons per day. So again, while this is somewhat of a false calculation, obviously all the flow is going to Hamlet District, but based on the amount of projected parcels that would have been in Farms District and projected amount of flow based on those parcels that would have been used by farms, the amount of current flow would equate to about 46% being levied to Hamlet. Again, that doesn't work mathematically. It's just that's effectively how the calculation would work if the flow was being split between districts. But since it's not, it's all going to Hamlet. Hamlet's getting the full 451.
Okay, so how can we change that? What are there any options to reduce the 451 being levied against the pure Hamlet users?
Well, one way, of course, is to if the O&M costs are less than what's been projected. So as the plant becomes more efficient, I suppose the cost goes down. I don't know if that's ever reality, but that's one way. There could be an amendment to the memorandum of understanding or the sewer operator side letter, which was approved by the town. That pushed all of the usage to the Hamlet, which is of course the only set of parcels that are currently using the flow. But that could be amended, I suppose. That I'd kind of refer to council on that. What efforts and measures would have to be done in order to basically amend kind of the current operating agreements.
It
But-
just
And who's
goes,
the MOU is between who? The town and the development?
The developer, yes.
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
Yeah, and that deals, what we're talking about really is just the current operation and maintenance expense, which is attributable to the flow that the plant is processing. Currently, the plant is only processing flow from the hamlet, and that's why the numbers come out this way. And that's why the hamlet is responsible under the agreement for 100% of the flow, because it's all coming from the hamlet.
Okay.
Okay, well-
I get it, but I'm not comfortable at all
First of all,
passing a levy to the hamlet that's gonna be over $1,000 for most people. And so I really want to see the options on how to lower that. And one is to get the operator to lower their budget. Or two is to push off this expense on somebody else. Like the farms, who should have had buildings up by now, like they promised this town over a year ago. And I was on the planning board when they were supposed to start digging in the spring of last year. And we pushed and pushed and pushed to get that to happen. And we have nothing. So I don't think it's right for the town residents to have to foot this bill because somebody else is dragging their feet. So I appreciate if you guys can provide some options and how to keep this out of their pocketbooks.
concur. And the other question I have, is just kind of a simple question. When you refer to plant, I don't believe, at least since I've been working here, since January, that we're effluenting anything into the new plant. Is that correct? This is just the operations of the old plant that's existing, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So that's substantial as well. We can't even get on the new plant until we fix the cyanide problem. All right, those conversations can be had. I agree with you. Everybody
Yeah,
else?
Howard, if you can give us some options on how to do this, Tuxedo Farms is asking for us to make some changes to some permits.
Mhm.
And I'd like to make some changes to how
No, I totally
this is
agree.
being arranged right now. I'm putting all this on current sewer district residents.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. I've shared here just kind of a snapshot from the prior calendar year's assessment roll for the hamlets, the parcels within the Hamlet district, and they were levied effectively 1275. So through adding some surplus and trying to work the numbers as best we could, we could, even though the O&M budget has increased, I think the per parcel charge has decreased slightly.
Well, I appreciate that effort. But that still was a significant increase over prior years, the
Yeah.
1,200,
Mhm.
correct?
Well, so the plant operation, so year one of plant operation, I think began 2022, 2023 was probably the biggest change in terms of costs from one year to the next. 2024 was about on par, and then we tried to bring that back down just by applying some of the additional surplus.
Right, but I'm saying the assessment that went to the members of the sewer district.
Mhm.
5 years ago, they weren't paying this much.
That's true.
Yeah, but that was artificially low.
Well, so
no.
are you saying that this is the first year that we're gonna have a special assessment?
No,
No,
no.
Less than, last year was about 1,200, this year is about 1,000.
Oh, okay, that's what he was saying. Okay.
no, but just keep in mind that the 5 years ago, the rates were artificially low. And that was in part because the old filter plant was just limping along and you never did repairs to it to keep
Right.
it up. And so no money was spent on the sewer plant. And therefore there was nothing, it didn't generate any bills and the rates were just artificially low. And that was historic. And
But
so over the past 4 or 5 years, the board recognizing that at some point it was going to have a new plant and that the costs of operating a new plant are substantially higher than what historically had been billed to the hamlet users, the board decided to slightly increase rates every year. in anticipation of coming to what are more realistic market rates.
Okay, Howard, but let me ask you this. So when there's 1,600 plus units operational in Tuxedo Farms, and I know they have to expand the sewer plant to accommodate all of that, proportionally, in 10 years, when there's a full build out, do we forecast or foresee that these costs go down significantly when there's more people carrying the
Once
load?
yeah, your costs will go down relative to the hamlet, not the hamlet, the Tuxedo Farms district. Okay, those costs are going to go up substantially.
Yeah, but it's gonna be.
You still have to fix your I&I, which is going to be your
We're in the
expense.
process of doing that.
Yeah.
We're making significant progress. But my point is, in 10 years, like what steady state operation costs or sewer district cost for somebody who lives on Circle Drive that's gonna pay $1,000 this year if we don't make any changes to this? What is it in 10 years when Tuxedo Farms is fully operational? Do we
couldn't tell you.
foresee that to be $500 a year, or is it gonna always be about 1,000?
I couldn't tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough projection, not knowing what the, expenses would be of the fully functional plant and the units in the farms and what the flow might be. But I mean, the designed intent, I mean, eventually this percentage, again, now this is a fictitious comparison because all of the flow was Hamlet, but through the MOU and the way that the rate method is kind of designed is that as more gallons flow through the plant, Farms District is online. Farms is using more of the capacity effectively than maybe the O&M cost to maintain a larger plant increases, of course, but you've got more Farms District parcels than you do Hamlet District parcels, and eventually, effectively they begin to carry proportionally more of the amount to cover the O&M. So you would hope, and again, if we'll keep trying to apply surplus, one can't count what the interest rate environment will be 5 years from now, but as additional surplus is available, we'll try to apply that as much as we can to kind of reduce the service fees, the O&M piece. The bond cost you can't really avoid unless you refund the bonds, but the additional expenses can kind of be fine tuned, and you can bring some of the costs down.
Yeah, because how many people are on in the Hamlet district?
16, I believe.
Yeah, 216.
216,
Yeah, it sounds about right.
and we're gonna have 1,600 more units bearing the cost of the entire treatment plant. So we're what, like the Hamlet district will make up 15%. About 15% of the total burden. They'll share 15% of the total burden of the entire operation of the plant. And do we think that plant, I mean, we can make some back of the envelope sketches or projections here. Is that back of the plant gonna triple in cost to maintain the whole district? And if it is, then if
Think
it's
not, but
triple,
that's, yeah,
If it's-
better question for the operator,
Yeah.
than maybe Howard, but yeah.
so that's Dave and Rick, when you guys talk to them, if you guys can kind of like, I'm sure you're already thinking that way. Because, I mean, if the Hamlet district's share is 15% of the total, and the costs triple to maintain all that, because it should be coming down, cost per unit should be coming down, the more people that are on it, not going up, then their annual cost should be significantly lower as well. And I'd like to kind of come to an agreement, Howard, if this is something you can propose and look into for us, on how we can make some type of projection over the next 10 years and keep the cost at that level. So they're not paying $1,000, $1,000, $1,000, then all of a sudden it drops to $250. That's my suggestion.
We can work on it, right, Howard?
We certainly can work on
I
it.
mean, that's a takeaway for us from this meeting, but we
Yes.
need to work on it.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I agree. Okay, good points, Chris Casker. Continue, Chris. Or, sorry, Eric.
Oh, yeah, no, valid questions, and we certainly will, you know, work with the board and the developer and whomever to try to get things adjusted as things progress. So the last page of the slide deck was just kind of an excerpt of the Paris budget, which has to be submitted to the state. So each year, this is kind of a rolling update. So, you know, the 2023 becomes actual, the books were closed. 2024 is still considered an estimate as we've got, you know, 2.5 months left of the calendar year. And then 25 is showing us a very baseline amount of adopted fees. This is the special assessment requirement that we've projected to 2.6 million. You know, we'll have some earnings, of course, through accounts. Those are conservative estimates. The surplus from the prior year that gets rolled over to the future year. Sorry, motion sensor, so I go in the dark periodically. And then some known operating costs. So again, an estimate of service fees inflated, you know, higher than what they are for this year. Other operating expenditures, that's kind of an adjusted budget based on the O&M presented by the operator for this year. Payment of principal, which is the bond payment that will be due in November 2025. Interest on the bonds, and that gets us down to the total expenditures of about 2.7 million for the future year. And again, very conservative, still estimating that we'll have about a $4,000 surplus without counting interest across all the accounts.
Okay. So that's the report, right? You're done?
That's the report, unless you know, if anybody finds any other questions within the report itself. Again, it's a lot of the pages of the report are the actual tables or the appendices, which show the amount of levy for the farms and the hamlet respectively. Slide deck was really just a summary of many of these tables presented herein and a whole lot of paragraphs that we cut out. But it's really just explaining the tables, which was the point of presenting it in this manner. So that is the presentation. We do recommend, I think the town assessor or I'm sorry, the town collector had emailed separately and said, hey, look for the budget. And I don't know if October 31st is the deadline. But I know that based on today's presentation, there's some desire to maybe figure out a way to reduce the cost and to the hamlet, and also perhaps have a deeper conversation with the operator about what the future state might look like. But in absence of that, our recommendation would be to you know, approve the levy for this year to get things funded so that the tax bills can be dispersed.
Okay,
We have how much time to prove that?
in 2 weeks.
All right.
All right, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you.
So there was two actions in new business. One was to review Eric's report. The other one is to review and adopt the budget, which I think we just looked at. That was, is that the budget right there that we're talking about, or is there a secondary budget that I'm missing?
The budget is, there may be a secondary budget for the board specifically, but I don't know if part of that budget actually was reviewing the
Okay.
budget.
Julie, is that something separate?
Yeah, so the Paris budget is due on October, no later than October 31st. That's what's here on your screen now is the proposed
Okay,
budget.
that's the budget. All
Yeah,
right, so in order to take an action on this, we have a pending action built in. So can I make a motion to adopt the 2025 to 2028 budget with a caveat that we will work with Howard to find a reduction solution in the special assessment?
Yeah, I think we also gotta talk to the operator and go over.
And the operator, we have that, and let's add that caveat too, subsequent to a conversation with the operator and try to reduce the cost there based on INI Phase 1 repair. So that's my motion. Two caveats inside the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, old business. The only old business we're aware of is a reorganization meeting that we had, so we don't have any takeaways from that. We're staying rock steady on that. Is there anything else that anybody on this board would like to bring forward
No.
to the attention of our consultants? Okay, then Howard, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting, but I would like to solicit you for a few minutes after everyone hangs up? Is that okay, sir? You're talking to me.
Unmute, Howard.
I think you're shaking your head yes.
I'm saying that's fine.
Okay, all
Whatever
right.
you like.
All right, with that, then I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:43. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Julie.
Okay.
and
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Chris?
everybody.
Thank
Eric?
you. Good night.
Julie?